Hello and welcome back once again to CBR MTG. Today we are covering GP Melbourne 2018 for the National Highlander event. Just national here at Melbourne, and we're joined with Lachlan Saunders.
How you going?
And our very own Philip Nicholson. Hi, Phil.
Hi.
Today we're covering Calvin on Blue Red Burn and Philip himself on That's So Raven's Crime. Very interesting name, Phil. Why don't you give us a rundown on what your deck's trying to do and why it's got the name that it's got?
So the deck is just a black-green prison deck, trying to leverage cards like Smokestack and Braids to lock your opponent out of the game, and it's running a Life No Limb package with normal fetch land, Strip Mine Wasteland, and uses Raven's Crime with that to get rid of a lot of your opponent's cards.
And you see some cards like that coming out of your side with some just nice green-black cards leading on a fetch right now. In Calvin's hand, you just saw a very sort of fair burn hand. There was an Eidolon in there and a Treasure Cruise, which I guess is not too fair anymore. But when it comes to 7-point Highlander, that's probably the first you're going to get.
Yeah, there was a Viashino Pyromancer, which is a new one. It's just a 2-1 that shocks them. You can see a fast one coming from Phil here. Did you know your opponent was on like a burn deck at this point?
I had no idea. All I saw was the Bloodstain Mire. I also obviously don't run out every single land.
Yeah.
I don't want to just take a bunch of needless damage.
Yeah, well, often the play pattern with Fast Bond is running out X lands where X is -1 the number of lands you have in your hand, because you get a land drop next turn in your way, and that won't cost you any life. Yeah. And you do have a cycling land there in the Barren Moor. And
it looks like you have both with the Tranquil Thicket as
well.
well.
Yeah, a Crucible as well, yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually possibly shouldn't have played the Mutavault here, but I think I wanted to have the option to attack with it next turn.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable, yeah. And your opponent could play a Swiss Spear and maybe you want to block it.
Yeah.
It's unlikely, but there's definitely lines there. End of turn fetch here into another fetch, which is great news for Calvin's Treasure Cruise.
Yeah,
that cruise is going to be happening soon. A Deluge in your hand, Phil. You can see your opponent's just played an Eidolon. Is this something you want to just snap off and kill immediately? Is it that big of a problem?
I think it is. I think with Eidolon, you pretty much just want to get rid of it as soon as possible in almost every game state.
Yeah.
It's just so important to not have it do any more chip damage than is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
I really don't want to be killing it with a Deluge.
Yeah,
it's just even more
very
life,
expensive, yeah.
But
life-wise,
I think it just has to happen.
Pretty awkward here that you drew an Abyss after choosing not to play those tap lands.
Yep.
A little bit of punishment here.
I was definitely a little bit upset about that, but sometimes you just get punished. So
yeah. And here we go, trying to recoup some of that loss by playing that tapped land, and I guess we're just praying for a little while, maybe hoping that Calvin will commit some more to the board, which is very much sort of inclined to do in this current position. Like, he's just playing out this Rebel Master. He's going to get in for a little bit more damage, and then hopefully that'll be enough that you need to sort of punch off that Toxic Deluge.
Yeah, so my logic was that when I drew the Abyss, that if Calvin doesn't commit anything else to a Toxic Deluge, I can just play the Abyss next turn, and I've taken barely any damage from the Eidolon. And if he does commit more, then I get more value out of my
Did
Deluge.
you think about just blocking the Eidolon here, just get it off the board without taking damage from the Deluge?
I'm not sure that I did think about it. It's very possibly the correct line. It's just save 3 life, I think.
Yeah, because you have the Crucible to get the Mutavault back. So it's you kind of don't lose anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and this is going to cost quite a bit of life, especially against a burn deck. You're already on 11, and Calvin's looking at that Treasure Cruise in his hand, starting to look pretty good as he starts to commit more to the graveyard.
Yeah, and Bitter Blossom making sure you'll have more life loss in store here.
Well, I at this point don't know that Calvin has Press of Progress in hand. I think that 11 life is a reasonably safe place to be playing Bitter Blossom out.
Sure.
But unfortunately for me, he does have Rise of Progress in his hand, so that is
It's a lot of damage.
pretty close to lethal already.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard one without Zuranorb. Are you playing Zuranorb in this list?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Zuranorb gives you a little bit of protection. I mean, if you drew it, you'd be able to sort of sacrifice everything if you needed to. But yeah, that Price of Progress and the Flame Rift was
Bitter
probably all
Blossom
you
not
needed.
even really mattering or coming into play here because you just died to 10 points of burn from your opponent's side, right?
Yep.
12 points even, yeah.
So that was a lot. But
was a
going
lot.
into sideboard now, and like you know what to look out for in the future, I suppose. But going into sideboard now, Calvin's going to be bringing in a Negate and a Braid and possibly one more card. But seems to be he didn't see too much coming out of your deck. He knows that some unfair land-based strategy is going to happen, but I think he thinks that a Negate is just a nice clean answer to whatever, perhaps even whatever sideboard action that you bring in. What do you bring in for this matchup, Phil? How do you feel about it?
So just for burn in general, I've got a bit of a creatures that gain me some life package in Kitchen Finks, Corsair of Crufix, and Obstinate Bailiff.
Seems reasonable.
I think those. So I consider bringing in Nature's Claim and Seal of Primordium to deal with cards like Blood Moon. And I think I put the Inquisition for my sideboard, at least in a pile of cards I'd consider, because it's a pretty easy swap for Thoughtseize against a burn deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure if I actually end up playing Inquisition or if I just cut Thoughtseize and play neither. But definitely don't want to be playing Thoughtseize in this matchup. So
Yeah, absolutely. A Duress sitting in a lot of people's sideboards who have the opportunity to replace for that Thoughtseize to stop yourself from losing that little bit of life. But we do see a lot of life gain package coming out of your side, and taking out that Bitter Blossom seems to be pretty okay as well. I think you just want to be locking out this game as soon as you possibly can, and then you can kind of take it easy from there.
yeah, which is locking out games as quickly as possible is not usually very easy for this deck. It's very light on ways to actually win, because a lot of ways to actually win are very bad with all of the creature hate that you're playing, like the Abyss.
Yeah, sure.
But
It's just the way it is.
you can occasionally assemble a quick win with a card like Titania, or a quick essentially win by locking your opponent out of the game with Strip Mine.
Yeah. I mean, and when we say like you achieving the win, you gaining so much control over the game that there's no way that your opponent can come back from it, pretty much counts as a win for these types of decks.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think Carpet of Flowers as a sideboard card is a little bit like incongruent with your game plan of like blowing up most of your opponent's lands?
I have definitely thought about that. I think usually against control, the Carpet of Flowers for a lot of the game does make you like 2 mana or so, which makes it just as good as Utopia Sprawl.
Sure.
Better. I have actually cut Carpet of Flowers in the pile that I have at home. I was playing it this weekend, but I think I'm gonna try not playing it
Seems
going
reasonable.
forward.
Yeah.
I think still at the very best you're because you're attacking your lands as well. Like it sometimes can go both ways, but just being able to get that little bit of mana, even if it's 1 or 2, can definitely help push you ahead of your opponent.
It helps you cast those kind of double colored spells through a moon.
That's also definitely true. And even without a moon, occasionally the double color spells can be rough because I'm running a lot of colorless lands.
Yeah.
This deck very interesting. I mean, you're versing a Blood Moon back to basics. I assume Calvin's playing the full package of hate effects, but your deck is only 2 colors, but it definitely has a problem with those non-basic land hate, doesn't it?
It certainly can. Price is definitely the biggest problem because you can't. The only way to play around it is really to just hold back on playing lands, which is pretty much the opposite of what I want to do all the time.
Yeah, and that seems reasonable. And you starting off with a that's the
Hissing
Quagmire.
Yeah, we can see it back to basics in Calvin's deck. He just thumbed past it there.
This is a Delver of Secrets from his side. A very interesting card, a card that you definitely have to play. Like you have to construct your deck around, and you really have to sort of push through. Like this is a perfect shell for prowess creatures if you're playing Delver as well. But I noticed that Calvin is playing a lot of enchantments and creatures as well. So this Delver might not flip as fast as he wants it to.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a Frank Carston article on the math on Delvers, on the ratios you need to reliably flip it. But
Phil
not
giving
this
me
time,
the
yeah.
old tap curse when he cuts the deck to make sure there's no instant or sorcery on top. But
I think the real problem is more Delver players need to just reveal the card even if it doesn't flip Delver. You gotta show your opponent you don't care if they have the information.
I do remember playing in a PDQ against committee member Andrew Vance, and him just playing Delver like that. Every turn, just flip the card. Oh, okay, sucks. Play the Geist, pass the turn.
Yeah.
Next turn, untap. Is it? No, it's a land. Okay.
it
was wild, yeah.
I think it's a big brain play, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely sends a message.
Yeah.
That much is true. This seems like a pretty easy game for you, Phil, to
You
to
definitely
lock up.
definitely pushed ahead with
Yeah,
that Liliana.
having Liliana is really good. Calvin does have a Scab Clan Berserker in hand if he can get to 3 mana. That might make it a little harder for Lily to stick around.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I don't know
I'm
if
just gonna cast a Smokestack here when Calvin only has 3 permanents already.
Yeah, that's
you're
going to
so
be a
far
tough
ahead.
one, yeah.
This is not a deck that you want to verse when you're missing land drops. And I mean, Calvin has this Shrine of Burning Rage, but I'm not sure if it's exactly what he needs right now, because 3 mana is going to be so impossible to get to.
Yeah, the land was definitely a good hit off the Abbot, but the fact that he didn't just draw it means he couldn't play Scab Clan and kill off the Liliana,
Yeah.
which means that she's going to get to plus again and get entirely out of range.
Yeah, are you just going to keep plussing it up at this point, or is there a time where you'll be ticking it down as well?
The Liliana?
Yeah.
Well, based on the board state, I don't think she's ever actually going to get to an ultimate, because the game will probably be decided by then.
Mm-hmm.
If Calvin were to play creatures, I'd probably minus
Definitely
her.
consider it.
But
Well, you can probably discern. I guess you don't really know if Calvin has a land in hand or not. But using Liliana to get rid of a permanent, I think, is also fine.
Yeah, but I did draw Baloth for turn. I think I was thinking about getting rid of Lily to kill off the Abbot, but drawing Baloth means I've got just a huge blocker that Abbot is going to have a lot of difficulty swinging through.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Any reason of getting rid of the regrowth over one of the cards that can come back with the regrowth?
It's just more mana intensive to get rid of a card that can come back with a regrowth.
Yeah, sure. That's reasonable. And with Smokestack well and truly online, you want to sort of be budgeting your mana as best you can.
Yeah, I'm almost certainly going to start sacrificing lands to Smokestack from here on out.
Yeah.
And trying to win by attacking with Obstinate Baloth, so...
And Calvin just giving up on that Abbot probably as fast as he possibly could in the face of that Baloth.
Well, he's got Fiery Confluence in hand, so it makes...
And a Fire Blast by the looks of it.
perfect sense to try and actually hit those land drops so he can cast the Confluence to get rid of Smokestack.
Yeah.
He's very close to doing a lot of damage. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Not sure of the cards, the lands in hand. It seems like a Steam Vents and a Cascade Bluffs and a Mountain. But next turn he could just Fire Blast and Fiery Confluence, which does represent quite a lot of damage. But with you at 17 life and this Obstinate Baloth still on the field, it's going to be very hard for Calvin to get through that last little bit of damage.
Yeah. I mean, he can also possibly respond to the Smokestack trigger in his upkeep by tapping his lands to activate Shrine of Burning Rage or to cast Other Instance. But I think he's just a little bit short on the critical mass of burn he needs to actually push all the damage through.
Yeah.
So yeah,
can you target the Shrine of Burning Rage and then sacrifice it before the Smokestack ability resolves? Is that not how that works?
No.
Well, Smokestack doesn't target, so
Okay.
it just chooses on resolution. So you wouldn't want to go for the Shrine of Burning Rage Fire Blast play unless it was lethal,
Yeah, that's reasonable.
because he'd just leave himself with no permanence. I think he's going for it here, and I guess hoping to draw Lightning Bolts from here on out to try and close the game out.
Seems reasonable. He has a lot of them in his deck. He's definitely choosing... Yeah, so he's just going to Fire Blast your face. Not that much when you're on 17 life, but... I mean... it's not looking great. The Smokestack is definitely...
He's actually gone for the Baloth here.
Okay, that leaves his options a little bit further open if he wants to. He just rips the land off the top. That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, he can.
although he's just played it into smokestack, so it's
just gonna die.
Right.
No. Yeah.
With the one fiery confluence in hand. Yeah, I guess he was just excited to be able to put the land onto the battlefield. But yeah, that's absolutely true. He wants to sort of sandbag his lands as much as he can and try and play as many hasty, Goblin Guide-esque creatures that he can.
Yeah, I mean, his most likely way of winning this game would be for me to brick on land drops hard enough that I need to sacrifice my smokestack.
Yeah, that's reasonable. And Calvin deciding that he doesn't want to go through that line and just go straight on to Game 3. Thankfully, he's up a game, so he'll be able to try and fight his way back for Game 3. But that was a pretty good showing from your deck. Like, the win con being stop your opponent from playing Magic.
Yeah, well, my opponent can't play Magic better than me if they can't play any Magic. So
that's a good way to think about it. Looks like he took out the Abbot, perhaps. Maybe not seeing its value in Game 2, so taking it out for Game 3 and just making a couple of little changes here and there.
A braid and ceremonious rejection, it appears to be, after getting stumped by artifacts, deciding
doesn't want it to happen again.
He would like some answers to artifacts, which I guess is reasonable.
How do you feel about ceremonious rejection against you, Phil?
I think it's actually not very good.
Okay.
It seems incredibly narrow in the format in general, I think.
Yeah. I mean, against like a full-on Mishra's Workshop list, it's probably fine.
Is it? It just seems worse than Shatter, though.
Sure, that's true.
Yeah.
Or Nullrod.
Smelt. Like.
Yeah, sure.
He has a Shattering Spree in board. He has an Abrade in board. There's a Fiery Confluence main.
Yeah.
I'd probably go for Smash the Smithereens.
Yeah.
In the aggressive deck.
Yeah.
But a lot of those
gets in the burn. Yeah.
Do you see the power
options?
Do you see the power of hitting Wormcoil Engine if you're versing that kind of deck as well? Like shops.
Yeah, Wormcoil Engine is a really, really hard card for the blue-red deck to beat.
Yeah.
So I can see a bit of value in that.
Just need a deck, don't worry about it.
Deck does it too. That's for sure.
So yeah, I think that the deck I'm playing here can be pretty hard to sideboard against just because it doesn't have the same like value creature package as a lot of decks in similar colors.
Yeah.
So
you are playing a few creatures.
Yeah, I think it's just very easy to, after game 1 or 2, kind of fall into a bit of a trap of sideboarding like you might against the Abzan lands deck or against a Jund deck. And I think the decks are just sufficiently different on how they operate that can very easily be a mistake.
Yeah, the deck is kind of fundamentally a control deck. So traditionally in Highlander, your slots against control are kind of like red blasts and dispels and stuff, and that kind of answer is not. It's not functional against this kind of control deck because you're not playing instants on the stack often. You're not. You're not playing anything to red blast or blue blast. You're playing a lot of permanents and control hate cards traditionally are very stack orientated because that's how the control decks operate a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely. I think the deck when I last checked was playing less instants than it's playing enchantments.
Fair enough.
Which is
makes sense.
Not typical of decks in Highlander. But
yeah. You can see Steamkin coming here, Standard and Modern All-Star Steamkin.
I do love seeing it delve out into new formats, but meeting a sinkhole, we might be able to see this sort of power. But untapping the Steamkin is very good if we can start stringing together some spells.
Is that a precognition field in hand?
It is a precognition field. It's your second copy of Experimental Frenzy, don't you know?
That's very good, yeah.
The sinkhole is definitely much worse on the draw than it is on the play.
Oh, yeah, because you kind of feel like you're doing nothing sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's still fine here. It still buys me time to try to get through like my really impactful 4-drops. But with a Steamkin in play, it's definitely possible my opponent just runs a bunch of stuff out, makes a bunch of red mana. I have a bad time.
Run away with the game.
Very good. Anyway, it is interesting seeing a Steamkin in a non-mono red list. I mean, you are losing like little little itty bits of value when you're playing sort of cantrips into the Steamkin, not being able to get any extra counters off it. But I mean, by itself, it's a pretty good card. Even if you just want to get it to a 3/3 or a 4/4, like just incidentally, it's just pretty good value. So I can see it why it's going well on Calvin's list.
Is there a reason you cracked the fetch here instead of just tapping it for black?
I think it's because I was originally going to play the Corso Crew.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And then I changed my mind.
Fair enough. Okay.
Having a Death Touch snake in Ophiomancer, which is actually becoming like a Highlander staple at this point because there's so many like mono black / main black decks that use Ophiomancer just as a great blocker, you know?
It's a really good blocker because it just makes an infinite supply of snakes.
Yep.
But it's also really good with a lot of other cards that are played in the format. So in my deck, it's really good with Smokestack and with Braids. But it's also really good with Skull Clamp. Yeah,
that's definitely reasonable. Ophiomancer, for those who don't know, is a 3 mana 2/2 for 3 mana 2/2 that says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you don't control a snake, make a snake.
It's actually the beginning of every upkeep.
So, it's beginning of every
make
upkeep.
a snake in your opponent's turn.
Its ability has haste. It's also there's no official token available for it.
Oh wow!
So this is.
we see one right here, right?
This is a call out for Ethan Fleischer. It'd be really nice if you could make a Death Touch Snake token. It's just a small request, but that'd be really nice. I'd appreciate it.
That's a live call out.
So yeah, here I have Braids, Corsa, Ramen-Up Excavator, and Obstinate Baloth. So there's a lot of different things I could do with my mana.
Yeah,
ways to gain life. Yeah. This seems excellent. Yeah.
Drawing on your sideboard cards is usually a pretty good way to run away with the game, but even playing this Braids on a board like this, it's definitely better now that you have a good blocker, but you've got the combo of Braids and Ophiomancer.
Yeah, my opponent does bolt away the Ophiomancer.
And now they can bust out the Experimental Frenzy, which is pretty
standard?
exciting.
I'm pretty ashamed that I had to read an opponent's card. It's never where you want to be.
It's too new, that's right.
Yeah.
3 cards in hand, it may be a little bit premature, but we don't know what type of cards there are, so they might just be bad cards. But
they'll kind of suck a bit.
Okay. Well, then that's very reasonable. So
unfortunately, missing a land drop here is super tough for Calvin.
Yeah, I think the fact that he missed the land drop...
He would have loved to play a land, yeah.
I think him missing the land drop is what led me to play Braids over one of the other choices that I had. I'm obviously not going to play Hemtotarok into my opponent's Experimental Frenzy because that would just accomplish nothing.
Yeah.
But this seems like... it seems great for him right now. I mean, he needs to string together a few spells, but this
he's doing something.
Advantage.
I don't know, like... accelerating out at a frenzy doesn't actually really do a lot because you don't have the resources to use the frenzy. You want to play the frenzy after you've finished playing everything else, you know?
He's just a little bit too constrained on mana.
Yeah. And with the Nether Void here coming down next turn, it's kind of game over.
Oh no, yeah. Just now he's having a reader. This is a old card, a very, very.
It's also an Italian, if I'm not mistaken.
It's definitely Italian.
This essentially is an enchant world that mana leaks every spell that's been played. So very good in a sort of prison black based deck that would also play Braids, like really constraining your opponent's mana choices.
Yeah, and it's also really good with the high number of creature lands that I'm playing because those function just fine through Nether Void.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see it taunting Calvin on the top of your deck, being ready to cast at any point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the...
Hey, Preordain, that's a pretty good combo.
Yeah, I mean, being able to scry stuff that you want to the top of the Frenzy is reasonably strong.
Cards, lots of Scry effects is definitely good in the Experimental Frenzy deck.
I think we have a missed Braid trigger, right?
There definitely was a missed Braid trigger.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I don't think it's really going to matter that much. But,
that's kind of why I didn't bother calling for Judge and asking
dig-through
about
time is unfortunate.
This is an interesting... it's an interesting build, and I can see both these cards truly powerful in their own right, but... I'm not 100% sure about this dig through time while Experimental Frenzy's on the stack, but while Experimental Frenzy's on the battlefield, but that's just the way the deck goes, right? Like, you're forced into playing this experimental frenzy, so you may as well put some cards in your hand in case you get to have the option to kill the experimental frenzy.
Or your opponent kills it, you know.
Or your
I
opponent
think
kills it.
he's gotten a little unlucky that I drew Braids rather than Smokestack.
Yeah.
Because if I drew Smokestack,
You could just opt to kill the
Smokestack lets you
experimental
sacrifice
frenzy.
any permanent, whereas Braids specifies artifact, creatures, and lands. So if there were...
Braid is a fussy lass.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you are being much more diligent with your Braids triggers, sacrificing a land, playing a new one, cracking it, getting a fetch land off the top, and I think you're pretty safe now to play this Nether Void and stop your opponent from ever casting spells ever again.
Yeah, that's...
Seems to be what we're doing now.
Yep. There is an enchant world on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate playing both the Abyss and Nether Void, because
You can't
for
play
anyone
both.
unfamiliar with enchant worlds, you can only have one enchant world, enchanting the world at a time.
It's the world that you're battling on. You could be playing on what's the red one? Storm World?
Storm world. There's also Gravity Sphere and Chaos Sphere. There's a lot of enchant worlds, and some of them are very bad and have absolutely no real effect on the game. But some of them are good, like Nether Void, and stop your opponent from ever casting a spell again. Which,
Speaking of which,
is the route to victory here for you, Phil.
yeah.
Yep.
So congratulations, Phil, for taking out that squeaker at the end. Calvin slightly getting punished by his Experimental Frenzy deck, but your deck truly showing exactly what it's trying to do, which is stop your opponent from casting spells and have you cast some spells, but also attack with little creatures.
Yep, definitely.
Well, that's all we have for this one. So Philip takes it down, and this is round 1. So he'll go into the 1-0 bracket. Feel free to join us for our next set, where we go into round 2, and then further on up until the top 8. So thank you so much for joining us for round 1, and we will see you again for round 2.
See you around.